Good evening, Jacket Nation. Producing a video today for those that were unable to attend the MSHSAA parents meeting for Lebanon School District this year. This meeting encompasses topics for both the high school and the middle school and all of our MSHSAA activities, which is a large group of things, not just sports, but all activities. Each of your individual activity will have its own parent meeting, and it will address more specific individual topics about that specific activity or sport. This is more of a general agenda, and we want to be able to get this information into everyone's hands. And obviously, I know that when we schedule a meeting, it isn't going to work for everyone. That is a natural deal. So this is an opportunity for folks to have the information and be able to get that, or at least get enough that you can follow up by reaching out to my office to get more information. So the first topic that I want to go over are forms and fees. So here at Lebanon schools, we do have a requirement, obviously, that is a state requirement of having a physical exam that is good every 2 years. And on that physical exam, there must be a proof of insurance. There is also a section on student information that has to be completed. So the forms have to be completed correctly. One of the things that we find on the physical exam is that sometimes the physical exam is not signed or dated at the doctor's office. So if you would check that and make sure in the future, obviously a lot of the fall sport folks have already taken care of this, but for winter sports and spring sports, and then in the future, make sure that in that office that is filled out correctly. Otherwise, that step's going to have to be done in order for it to be a legal document. And then obviously make sure each part is filled out. If there's a section not filled out correctly, then we're going to have that form go back home and get filled out correctly and then resubmitted to our office. We also have a code of conduct. This code of conduct is a board-approved document, and it centers around obviously more behavioral type stuff. It's very important that everyone from athlete to parent reads this document and understands not only some of the different things that are on the code of conduct, but also the accountability for that. And so once you have read that, you're obviously required to sign it. We must have that document on file before your first contest, or you are not able to participate. This is a required form to be able to participate in a contest. The next form is our drug testing form, and the drug testing form is also a board approved form that is a requirement to participate in any of our activities. With this, the drug testing is a random situation where students every 2 weeks have the potential of being drug tested for different drugs. And if a student tests positive in any of those things, and if the process of vetting through them, they are not prescription or approved, then obviously the student would fall into the code of conduct with having an illegal substance. And from that process would move forward on the consequences from there. The drug testing process is that once the student has filled out the form, and I will also add that anyone that is in any MSHSAA activity, also anyone that is going to have a parking pass, must have this in order to participate in either. So once you have submitted that form, you are able to participate, and you are assigned a 7-digit number. That 7-digit number will go out to the drug testing company, which is Tomo Drug Testing out of Springfield, Missouri. And They will then take those 7-digit numbers, put them into a computer program, and that's what generates the testing pool every 2 weeks. And so there is a chance that a student here at Lebanon High School will never get tested. And then there's a chance that a high school student could get tested multiple times. And I know sometimes that can be frustrating. Sometimes even it could feel like you're being targeted. I assure you that no student is ever targeted in any way, shape, or form. We do not select it. The names do not go to the drug testing company, just a number. And so it is random, and it can occur that you get tested a lot or never at all. The purpose of the drug testing program I do believe in, and that is that it creates an opportunity for students to have a tool to say no to things that obviously they don't need. And with that tool, it helps them obviously maintain eligibility, because the reality is that if you do get tested and you are positive in one of these areas, you are going to lose eligibility for a period of time. Now, the students that have a parking pass only are probably not watching this video, but they will lose parking privileges for a period of time, as would the person in activities. And then the last part of this section is the activities fee. The activities fee is a necessary evil. I don't think that you could find a high school in the state of Missouri that does not charge a minimal fee. What do those dollars go towards? Those dollars help compensate a lot of different costs to an activities department that is above normal operating budgets. From banquet costs to just different costs that are unexpected. You know, a program might have something that pops up that they need, and their normal operating budget will not provide for that item. The budget that comes from this activities fee will supplement. So it is a supplemental budget. It is a necessity. We do have a waiver option. And so if there is a family that is in a spot where it is not affordable, we're not going to punish, obviously, for that. We're not going to not allow participation solely because of the activities fee. However, I want to put this on here that certainly it is needed. And so I don't want anyone to view this as just another way for money to be absorbed. It is a reality that it does benefit not only the programs, but the student athletes right now. Those dollars are spent within this calendar year for the kids. That is exactly what these dollars go towards in different realms. So the next topic area in this is eligibility requirements. So obviously, with the Missouri High School Activities Association, there are eligibility standards that are in place. The first is academic eligibility. And so within this, each student must pass 80% of a full load. And so for a full load for a standard student, a traditional student, that is 7 of 8 classes. And that is, of course, 7 of 8 where all 8 are credit bearing. Well, obviously, all programs want the kids to pass everything, and not only to pass, but excel. But certainly the eligibility is a question of how that is achieved, and so that is the format. Now, there are other realms within the MSHSAA handbook of having eligibility. And so you have the traditional student, which I just went over. You also have the non-traditional 1 student. The non-traditional 1 student is a student that is degree seeking with a full transcript. However, that student has either a fully virtual schedule with a full load of classes that are all going to be transcripted here at Lebanon High School, and they are passing 80%, just like a normal student. This really came to light when COVID took place as an option, and of course has really been an option for a long time, but now is more prevalent, at least in certain realms. Then the other parts of the non-traditional one student would be the student that has different work study type things, or go-caps, or building trades, or different courses that might not potentially be right on campus. However, they are degree seeking. Those credits are fully transcripted, and they have the full load, just like the traditional student. And then the final group that you have is what is termed as non-traditional 2. And a non-traditional 2 student is your homeschool category. This board-approved standard, which MSHSAA recommends for us, is that each of those students must have 2 seated hours. And so those 2 seated credit-bearing hours, they will have to have, and not only obviously the semester that they are participating, but then following that. They cannot have it the semester that they're participating and then not have any, as they would change their status within our district. So once they come in, they must maintain 2 seated hours the remainder of their high school career. And then of course, their homeschool transcript and curriculum must be approved by our counseling center to show that they have a full load in that other area. And that is all to create equity with our traditional group and our non-traditional 1 group. And so you can find all of this in the MSHSAA handbook under academic eligibility. So any of this stuff that I'm going over, I would encourage anyone to go to MSHSAA.org, click on the handbook. You can do a Control F and you can study it on your own. But certainly I also can answer any questions because I know that some of this is quite brief. Some other parts of the eligibility requirements fall in attendance. It is important, obviously, that attendance is adhered to. Students must not only be in attendance on a game day, but they must maintain good attendance standards to not lose credit. There is a certain number of absences where students can lose credit in a particular course. You want to avoid this. But also you have, with our activities group, the situation where a student on an activity event day must be in attendance. Now let's say that there is an instance where the student has to miss. That needs to go through my office and Dr. O'Quinn's office to get approval for that absence in order to participate. You know, what scenarios might that be that would get approval? Well, obviously a funeral, etc. So in the event that your student or the student who might be watching this has to miss, they need to in advance or immediately contact my office, and then I will contact Dr. O'Quinn's office in order to work through the approval, if it's possible, in order to participate that particular day. Another part of eligibility is the behavioral component. Obviously, the Code of Conduct outlines all of this. It includes ISS, OSS, ASC. All that I'm going to tell you in this video is please review the Code of Conduct for all of that. There is eligibility requirements from that, and your eligibility can be affected in each of those. So please review that and understand that. The next part is the NCAA requirements, and I'm not going to go through a lot of that in this video. However, I can tell you that there are amateur type standards that must be met. The NIL component is changing constantly. And so there are a lot of things. And so if your student athlete is potentially going to be an NCAA athlete at any level, I would advise that you contact my office, contact Heidi Conti in the counseling center, and begin the process of learning all the different rules that might be in play when it comes to not only the MSHSAA, but the NCAA. The next component is our parent issue protocol. And so when we have an issue that a parent wants to discuss, it is so vital and an expectation that there is a 24-hour rule. What does that look like? What does that mean? So if a parent after an activities event wants to discuss something, they need to call the next day at school and set up an appointment with the coach. That coach then has the opportunity, or the parent has the opportunity, to have me present in the meeting, or our junior high athletic director, Brian Decker, or another administrator, and then we can meet on the topic. Now, I will tell you that, before we begin any of those processes, it is important that everybody understands that playing time and positions within each team is frankly non-negotiable. And here is the reason why, very simplistically. Obviously, all parents in particular are going to love their child. And that's the way it's supposed to be. And 99% of the time, parents are going to have those blinders on. And again, that's normal and natural. Here's what I would ask, though, is that everyone understand that those blinders are not worn by the people making those decisions. Our coaches are charged, number one, all of them, with developing young people for life. If you look at the statistical data of the number of kids that are not going to compete at the next level, the percentages show that way over 90% are going to move on to life and not participate again. So, activities are not supposed to be simply about that. Activities are supposed to be an extension of the classroom. They're supposed to be about a laundry list of items that the young person can gain through that experience to be better. That's what it's about. And so when the coach potentially is focused on everyone, but yet a parent is obviously going to be with the blinders of love on, the perspectives are different. And that's natural. That isn't something that any coach would think would be different. But all people need to understand the perspective on both sides. And so me as a coach and an athletic director, I know that the parent's going to be focused on their child. That's not offensive to me. But what is important is that the parent remembers the perspective of the coach. And so, how do we address that big topic of playing time and position? That needs to be done by the athlete. It's the athlete's possession, not the parent's. The parent is a part of the team, but not on the team. The athlete has to learn how to communicate and navigate that journey on their own. The parent can coach them through that communication channel. And I will give different examples here, but I've got a son who is a fifth-year senior, and he plays collegiate athletics. And I can tell you for certain that there is zero parental input at the next level in any way. Those kids have to learn how to fail. They have to learn how to be able to handle all of the different things on their own. The more that we teach them at the high school level, the better prepared they're going to be for whatever it is. The workforce, I can promise you that when a 19-year-old who leaves high school enters the workforce, they're not going to want to hear from a parent. The kids have to learn how to deal with the different aspects. Coach them up on how, and then let them do it. It is an expectation from my desk that all coaches honor the kids in the realm of, if a kid wants to meet, the coach owes them the why. Why are you not playing? What do you got to do to improve that? What is your role? They owe that to the kid. But the coaches don't owe it to the parent. It isn't the parents. And I know that's hard. And again, I can view that with the perspective from both lenses. A coach that's been doing it 29 years, an athletic director that's been doing it for 13 years, and a parent of 3 children who all participate in activities. And I can tell you that I understand, but we've got to all stay in our respective lanes to ultimately help the kid be better. That's what it's all about, showing them how to tackle the world. That's what it's all about. I'll also talk about this, and this is a bit of a soapbox for me, but I think it's important in this whole topic. And that is, again, what our activities really are all about. And in that development of all of those life skills that can be learned, and frankly, no offense to our classroom, which is always number one and should be. But there are things that can't be learned in the classroom that can be learned on our activity groups. And those items are pivotal. It isn't just entertainment. And I urge all parents to really, really think through this, that when your kid comes home and says, I don't want to do it anymore, to make sure that we navigate through the why. Because if the why that the kid don't want to do it anymore is because of the challenge, they need it. Because obviously we all know as parents that the challenges are coming and there is no avoiding them. And the better we are at tackling those challenges, then the more equipped we'll be. It isn't just entertainment. It isn't just entertainment for the kid or the parent. It's more. And so I would just encourage all of you to really, really think about that. You know, I believe in and I'm old, I'm crusty, I totally get it. But way back in the olden days, I felt like there was more of an emphasis on those things that a kid got from all the activities in the realm of character development, discipline, being on time, structure, so on and so forth, teamwork. I mean, literally, folks, I could give you 50 items plus. And sometimes I feel like now in 2024 that there's too much mindset of, well, if you can't start, be the star, get to play enough, get yours, why do it? And I just think that's broken because of the simplistic fact that there is so much that all young people get from their experience. No matter what it is, there is great things that can come from that to help them in the future. Moving forward from my soapbox, and I know I took you guys down a long road there, but important that we all are on the same page and that we hear it. More on the parent complaint issue. I went through the 24-hour rule. I went through the idea of the two lenses and perspective with blinders of love, playing time and position. So now I'm going to go over the chain of command, because sometimes there are issues that simply we want to discuss with more people. It's just the way it is. Here's what I ask, and I ask this not just for my office, but I'm asking this for the other offices, because this is what they want. Everybody needs to start with the coach, and then my office, and that could be at the same time. Then the building administrator, then a central office administrator. That's the order. We shouldn't get out of order. We should stay in the order of the chain of command in order to deal with whatever topic it is that we need dealt with. And so when we get out of order, what should take place is that realm of the chain of command should communicate that we need to move down the chain of command in order to get things answered. And oftentimes, in dealing with this on my own, so if someone comes to me and they haven't met with the coach, I probably don't know. And so to get the facts, you got to meet with the coach always first. And so that's really important. And I will conclude that particular portion of this. Now, moving on to facility reminders that are important. Obviously, we all know that there's construction here at the high school. And so here at the high school, it's so important that we've got our eyes on, especially as things continue to move, when they start to close areas, close parking lots, etc. We've got to be prepared for that. And obviously, if it's a hard hat area, once that comes, we should not ever enter it. I also will add, and this will even be more important when areas get closed, is if there is a red curbed area, that is a fire zone. You should not park there. And if we get into a position where too many are parking in those spots with construction, then our SRO might have to issue tickets or tow vehicles in order to keep us in a spot where we're compliant with the fire department. Some other things that are very important with our facilities is that if you come to see your child, obviously you've got to check in the main office. In 2024, safe schools is always number one. It's our job to keep your children safe. And so there is not free reign into the building. You must come through the main office in order to access whatever, and you'll be helped in that. And obviously in the after school activity time frame, the building opens up, and it'll be obvious when that time is there. Another facility reminder is that if you are wanting to reserve any facility, potentially for a youth team, maybe some other type of event, you must go through our central office in order to do a facility use agreement reservation. This is so important. And the reason that it's so important, number one, is so it's organized and it's not overbooked. Number two, so that we get a certificate of liability in place. In 2024, that is so pivotal to have on file for all groups that want to reserve a facility. So if you're in that category, please make sure that you take that step. And again, that is to keep things organized, safe, and to value our community's investment in all of our facilities and take care of our stuff. Some other reminders with facilities, games in inclement weather. Obviously, if any game is outside and we have inclement weather, if it's lightning, we will bring the teams inside the building and we will offer places for fans to also come. Or we will ask fans to go to their vehicles if it is a lightning delay. We will not have teams or fans that will remain outside during that or in open dugouts, etc. All must be inside. And so obviously any fan or parent is not required to come in our building in a lightning storm, but we'd ask that you not be standing outside in the bleachers or any other location in our facility during that event. That is obviously for your protection. If that inclement weather turns into a tornado warning, then we are much more stringent. We're going to ask all people to come into the building. We will have administrators that will be assisting with that process. We're going to get everybody into the center part of our building. We will shelter appropriately. We will not be in gymnasiums or in lower levels. And we will do the steps that are necessary in order to protect you. Obviously, we're not going to allow anyone, a patron, fan, or parent, to go to their vehicle in a tornado warning. We will ask that you join us into this sheltering situation. And frankly, our school buildings are as safe as any if sheltered properly. A next item with facilities that's important is it is a conference expectation in the Central Ozark Conference that our fans, students, and parents are not entering the field of play or court of play or whatever venue that we're at. This is for the safety of all involved. It's for our teams, our kids, and so it is important that we all adhere to that. And that is at Lebanon and on the road. Now, I know that there is a long-standing tradition within the football program in particular that parents and fans like to take pictures and visit with players. We're obviously not going to eliminate this long-standing tradition. However, what we're going to ask is that you remain in a certain spot until the team is done with its post-game meeting. And then we're going to ask that the players and this fan group meet in the end zone on the band scoreboard side. We cannot be in the middle of the field where we're in close proximity with the other team. And obviously, we're asking that the opposing fans not be on the field at all. So please adhere to this so we can meet the standard that we need to meet. Now, our fans when we go on the road. So and this includes all sports. Volleyball we'll use as an example. We've got our first volleyball game on the road. On the end of that game, we would ask that the fans, the students, and the parents not congregate on the opposing team's floor. This is a conference standard. Please meet in a different area. Most schools have a hallway that the teams can congregate probably near their locker rooms and enjoy and do what they need to do. I'm sure that if a group wanted to take a quick picture, that the opposing schools or us when we're at home would not balk at that. But the large congregating crowds on the opposing court or our court is not going to be acceptable. So please adhere to that as we move into this new year. The next item with facilities is that I would ask in all facilities that we're at, home and away, that we are picking up trash. Make sure that we're helping custodial staffs at Lebanon and on the road. You know, those people bust their tail, and we need to be respectful of them. You know, this is an environment where that's an add to many of their jobs. And so we need to do a good job of taking care of that. And in some cases, coaches and players have to pick up that trash. So please help us out with all trash. The next item here in this is trainer policies and changes. We do have a new trainer, Brian DeVivo. Brian comes to us from Bolivar High School. Brian has done a really, really nice job in his short time here. We're very grateful for our athletic trainers that we had a year ago. They both ladies did an incredible job for us. And with this new trainer, the policies are staying very standard. Whereas if you've got an issue, the trainer is available to you. Parents, if you need to ask a question of them, they're available to you. Contact them and ask that question. All of our athletes' health is front and center. And so any way that we can help as coaches, and obviously our athletic trainer, we're going to do that. And so please adhere to that. One thing that is important in the fall, obviously, is the wet bulb. MSHSAA has a standard that we adhere to the wet bulb policy with the heat index. And so each day that's going to be evaluated in the fall when we have that heat issue, and we will fully comply to that standard and rule. And so please, I urge everyone to be on the same page there. It isn't something where we are less restrictive or more restrictive. This is a state guideline, and it's in place for the safety of our kids. So it's easy to understand the why and be on board. Moving on now to our fan conduct expectations section of this MSHSAA meeting. Number one, and so important, folks, we need to treat the officials right. You know, in 2024, it has never been more important than to be in a spot where we are treating officials the right way. There is the greatest of shortages of officials that there ever has been. And what's even more scary is that the average age of the current officials is at a spot where the shortage could grow in the future. So, how do we as a whole athletics world tackle this issue? Number one, we need to promote being an official. Instead of being derogatory and negative about it, we need to promote it so more young people get into it as a way to be involved in the activity still and make extra money. And then as fans, players, and coaches, we need to treat the officials the right way. It doesn't mean that sometimes an official can't be questioned or asked something. However, when we cross the line, crossing the line often means that we become irrational. We lose composure. We say things demeaning, personal, or our language is inappropriate. These are all things that are uncalled for and not necessary, and they are part of the why that there's a shortage. We all have to do a good job in this area. We all have to own this area because obviously, folks, if we don't have officials, we don't have a game. So I would ask here at Lebanon that we are the leader in this. I want officials to say, we want to do games in Lebanon, Missouri, because we know that they're going to treat us with respect. It doesn't mean that we're not going to necessarily ask them why once in a while, but we're going to treat them with respect. We're going to treat them the right way. We're going to do the right things and adhere to what we're supposed to. Now, moving into other fan conduct expectations, obviously, the kids. When we're at games, we need to do a really good job of making sure that what we say is not demeaning. And sometimes it's a person about their own kid being negative, but then sometimes it's somebody saying something about another kid. This is high school, and there's no place for it, and I'm passionate about this because there is zero place for this. And when we get this situation, it isn't a spot where potentially you'll have to be met with and potentially asked to not come back. We want an environment where our kids are developing as kids. not where they're slam packed full of pressure trying to meet some adult's expectation in this activity. All right, and I know we get passionate, and there's nothing wrong with that. We can get passionate, have fun, be loud, be vocal, positively for our team, instead of acting like we might potentially act at like a St. Louis Cardinal game. I promise you this, they're different. There's a big difference between someone who's making $1 million plus and then someone that's doing it because they love it and they're a kid. So there is no gray area on this. None. We're all going to treat the kids the right way and say the right things in the stands all the time, or we're not going to be able to be there. The next part is the other teams. Obviously, the other team's kids fall in the same category. We should never say one thing negative about a kid from another team, ever. Very simplistic. This also goes for coaches. You know, all coaches are coaching not because of money. They're coaching because legitimately they care about kids, they're competitive, and they want to be a part of the development of young people in the education business. We instantly should respect that. Does that mean we're going to agree with everything? Well, of course not. I will tell you this, if any of you fans or parents out there were a coach calling games as far as plays or making decisions on personnel, and I would question you. But there's a right way to do that and a wrong way to do that. And the wrong way is by being a buffoon in the stands. Have composure, have self-control. Everybody can have an opinion, but do it the right way so that the environment is healthy, keeping perspective of what really is going on here. And then obviously, this applies to the other coaches of the other teams also. You know, I know we get real competitive and we have this facade that we don't like the rival, and that's okay. That's kind of healthy. But that doesn't mean that it gives us a ticket to be in a spot where we are being demeaning to another team's kids or coaches in any way, period. Then the next part of this is social media, and I think this is a critical component. Under no circumstance ever should a kid be being bashed on social media by a fan or by a parent. Zero. I can't think of a more cowardly thing to do. These kids are high school kids. And truthfully, if anybody out there is getting their enjoyment, if they're living their life through these kids' success on the field, you've got to pivot and find something else. Pro team, college team right now, because those guys are all making money. Find a different scenario. These high school kids don't deserve that. Don't ever do it. And frankly, you shouldn't be doing it to the high school coaches either. These are individuals that don't deserve that stuff. You know, if you don't like what the coach is doing to the point where you have passed the limit, set up a meeting with the coach. Don't get on social media and bash and go nuts. There's just no call for it at the high school level. I don't think somebody should even do it at the other level. Because I always feel like I'll give an example. You know, obviously Andy Reid right now with the Kansas City Chiefs, there's not a lot to argue about right there. But last year the Chiefs were 10-7 at one point, and there was stuff going on about what Andy's doing wrong. And my immediate thought process is, no one has any idea what they're talking about. And so it's all opinion with zero credibility. And I promise you this, Andy Reid's not looking at any of it or cares. So, I'm passionate about this too, but it's clearly important that you're not doing it to the high school coaches. Again, if you got a problem, deal with it the right way, contact them and meet one-on-one. And then at least I guess you can get it off your chest, and the coach can visit with you, and we're not doing it in a spot where we just make everything look bad. Moving on from that, I know that topic's a little bit in your face and a little challenging, but very, very important. College recruiting, I highlighted briefly. For any of you that have a young person that is desiring to play at the next level, it's really important that they take some proper steps. There are people here in the district that have went through this a long time. One of your first resources is Heidi Conti in the Counseling Center. She's your academic resource. You do have certain academic requirements in order to be eligible to compete at each level. You need to find out what they are. Then your next resource is me, no matter what your sport is. Doing this thing, and I'm not trying to sound arrogant here, but I have been doing this 29 years. In the football program and the program that I coached before here, I've dealt with over 60 kids that have played at the next level. And then with my own children, which now I have 2 that are competing at the collegiate level, I went through it as a parent. So I do have what I believe to be some very sound practices in this realm of college recruiting that I can help you. Not obviously, you don't have to take the advice. You can get it from somewhere else, but it's available, and I do believe there is some credibility to it. But you definitely want to get that, because there are some keys to tackling this thing the right way, and we don't have time in this video to go through them all. The other person that you should be communicating with is your coach. So your coach, the AD office, and Heidi Conti are 3 places that you need to be reaching out to if your young person wants to play at the next level. The next item is information location. I can't think of a time frame in 2024 where there's not more information accessible everywhere. You've got it on MSHSAA.org. You've got it on our online calendar. You've got it on all the social media platforms. There's tons of apps out there. I will say this with confidence, and I'm saying this to our players, our coaches, and our parents and fans. There's no way in the world that anyone should ever say ever again, well, I just didn't get the information. The response that needs to be said is, well, I just didn't look for it. It's out there. And if truly you're having a hard time finding it, reach out to somebody and they can get you connected, because there is information hubs everywhere. And I understand back in 1992, you might have had a hard time finding something. Not in 2024. It's there, and you need to make sure that you're available to it and have it. And then the last part of this, and then I'm going to close this thing up. Why do we play? You know, MSHSAA's greatest battle cry to all involved, our coaches, our players, and our parents and fans, is that we all got to be on the same page. Why do we play? We are not playing this thing so that we can win the game. That's not number one. It isn't so we can leverage a college scholarship. That's not number one. It isn't so we can get in the newspaper. It isn't so we can look good and we can brag. We're playing the games because of the things that I've already talked about in great length that we gain from this experience. Activities are truly an extension of the classroom. Don't lose focus of that. There are so many things that are so important that the kids learn through character ed development and all the other realms. Keep that first. Don't lose perspective of that. And I promise you this, for those of you that refuse to listen to that, at some point in time, you're going to say, that was right, either now or 10 years from now. I appreciate everyone watching this video, those that were unable to come to the parent meeting to watch it live. I hope it was helpful. I'm always available in my office to help any of you at any time. That's my job. My job is basically a triangle. And that triangle, the top of it is our kids, always. And then at the other corners is our coaches and our parents. My job's to help all. Not one group, all. And so I value that, and I want to do that. So if you need anything throughout this great year we've got coming up here in 2024-25, you let me know, and I'm going to take care of you. Go Jackets.